You are now entering the MBFP podcast, where the paranormal and the spiritual converge in a spine-chilling dance. This is not a journey for the faint of heart, but for those who dare to challenge the boundaries of the known and face the unsettling truths around us. Join us as we navigate the blurred lines between faith and fear. Without further ado, here is your host.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Michael McArdle. If you've had an unexplained or crazy experience, please shoot me an email at the MBFP podcast at proton.me. Today, we have a very special guest. He's a world-renowned author, filmmaker, and lecturer, and in my opinion, one of the most informed experts on the topic of the Nephilim. LA, welcome to the show.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
So you've been doing this for a while now. You've been doing it for a while, so you've got a lot of information on this topic. Was there an experience that you had in the past that kind of roped you into this topic?
It's a 3-hour conversation, but I'll make it as brief as possible. Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, The Omega Conspiracy, that book changed my life. There's no doubt about it. That book gave me the answers that I had been seeking as a Christian, as a young Christian 43 years ago. And that book, like I said, changed my life because Dr. Thomas got into the whole Genesis 6 idea and connected it with the burgeoning UFO phenomena, which is exactly what I hold to. I think we've done a great job moving the ball further down the field from what Dr. Thomas had decades ago now. But here's the deal. The one thing that really changed, the one experience that really changed my life, I was headed out to a conference in Ohio. And that conference, I was first time I was ever in Newark, Ohio. So I didn't know anything about it. And Russ Dizdar, who passed away a couple of years ago through COVID, which is really unfortunate. He and I were at 90 conferences together. We were battle buddies. I miss him. And Russ called me up and he goes, LA, do you know where you're going? I go, well, I'm going to Ohio. And he starts laughing. And you have to understand, if you know Russ, when he started laughing like that, he knew something that you didn't know. So he goes, are you by your computer? I go, yeah. And he goes, Google Fritz Zimmerman, Fallen Angels in the Ohio Valley, the Nephilim Chronicles. I go, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I Googled it, and there's Fritz Zimmerman's book. I immediately ordered the book and also the PDF to read on the plane because I have a 5-hour flight the next day to Ohio. So I have the PDF. I'm reading it that night, all on the plane. My mind is completely blown. Here I am. I thought I was done with the Nephilim. This was it, finished. Because I had written the Nephilim trilogy. And I thought it was all over.
Yeah.
Little did I know. And in that, Fritz is talking about the Great Circle Mound in Ohio. And we were just there recently, this past summer, with Fritz and our film crew and a bunch of other people. And we know something you don't know, and I can't tell you.
Yeah.
It'll come out in the film. But this validates Fritz's theory, and it blows the whole thing out of the water, in our opinion, that Native Americans built this.
Yeah.
Because they didn't. But that's, if one of the major Ohio archaeologists were here, he would immediately get all flustered and call me names and everything else. Well, let's just get into this.
Yeah.
You can think whatever you want of me. I don't care. Let's talk about the evidence and what's there. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I know I'm reading Fritz's book on the plane, and I'm with my driver coming from the hotel to the venue where the conference is. And I look at him and I go, hey, do you know where this Circle Mound thing is? He goes, oh yeah, it's up here on the right. We're going by it. I go, you're kidding me. He goes, no, this is the Newark Earthworks. And he goes, about a mile up here on the right. So I'm in the back seat, the car's going, and I'm looking out the window and I'm going, oh my gosh, there's the sign. So I go, can you let me off here? tomorrow because I have got free time. The conference ends around 1. I'll pack up everything. I'll get everything ready to go. Maybe we can get here by 3 o'clock. He says, sure, no worries. So it's the following day, and I'm packed up, ready to go, blah, blah, blah. The driver drops me off there around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It's hard to say what time. I don't remember that. But it's getting twilight. Nobody in the parking lot. Nobody in the parking lot. I have the entire site to myself. There's a 4-foot asphalt path that takes you to the site. And as I'm walking up, I'm looking to my left and I see that's the circle mound. Those are the great earthen berms that create the circle mound, which is about 1,250 feet in diameter. The thing is huge, right?
Yeah.
And I get to the top and it's nice and level. And I look to the right and there's the museum, which of course was closed. It's always closed. And I'm just joking. I mean, we're there, we went in and we had a field day, but I digress. So I'm walking towards the gate. According to Fritz Zimmerman, that circle mound came around and there were 2 dragon heads on either side. The dragon heads are no longer there. Where do we see this motif? Just go down to Chichen Itza, down in South America, down in Mexico, Chichen Itza. There are the dragon heads at the bottom of the temple. Oh, gee, what a surprise! But that's a 3-hour conversation also. So anyway, I'm walking towards the gate where the 2 dragon heads are, and there's a gateway. It's probably about 60 feet wide. I'm just guessing. And I'm walking into the circle mound, and I pause. And every nerve ending is firing. And I'm hyperventilating. I'm like this. And my eyes are darting around like this, looking, taking it all in. I'm not moving a muscle. And this is one of those life experiences that hardly ever happen to anybody. And when they do, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
And I realized at that moment, I was looking at the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This is what I would be doing for the rest of my life. Since then, the whole On the Trail of a Nephilim, On the Trail of Nephilim 1, On the Nephilim Trail 2, the big book, we compiled it all, the 8 films in the On the Trail series. So you can see that I have not been sitting idle. That was a life-changing experience. And we already have at least 2 more films, definitely 1, but more than likely 2 films in the can, which unfortunately, I just got finished the UFO film. I took a break, but probably towards the end of the month, I'll start trying to put something, because we got to edit those and get them out this year. Yeah. And then we've got several sites that we'll be going to and filming and interviewing people there. So, we're really busy, and that's
just pumping them out.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So there's a few instances in the Bible where it talks about the Nephilim, just a couple. What would you say to someone that says the Nephilim were wiped out during the flood?
They were. But then the verse says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. When? It tells us exactly how. When the sons of God saw the daughters of men and went into them. Some people try to take that text and just torture the heck out of it. Well, it really doesn't mean that. They really didn't come afterwards. Afterwards could mean still in the days of Noah, blah, blah. Nonsense. Moses is writing this thousands of years after the event. Why wouldn't he just say, very simply, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days? And the story, period, over. Yeah. Days of Noah. But and there's one author, he's passed away, and I'm not going to argue with him. He's a real smart guy. But, he made a case that, no, it's really not what the text says. It means, just the days of Noah. They were on the earth in those days. And also afterwards really doesn't mean an also afterwards. It just means in the days of Noah.
He says it's theoretical.
In the text. Yeah. Because Moses is writing this thousands of years, and just because you can speak Hebrew and Greek and all this other stuff doesn't mean you're right. Just because you got a PhD after your name doesn't mean you're right. There's a lot of guys with degrees and PhDs that have never been out in the field, never done anything. In my humble opinion, and I'm not telling names because, it's not worth it.
Of course.
We don't want to disparage anybody. But in my humble opinion, the text says exactly what happened. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards. Yeah. When the sons of God, the Bnei Elohim, the fallen angels, saw the daughters of men, took wives, that's plural. Yeah. It's not monogamous.
Yep.
took wives and went into them. That's in the biblical sense. Had children by them. It's the great men of renown. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so simple. The book I wrote, which is number 13 in the corpus of work that we have, as far as books, it's called Countermove: How the Nephilim Returned After the Flood, and that's why we wrote it, to try to make the record clear. No, Ham's wife was not a Nephilim. It was not carrying a Nephilim gene.
Yeah.
That's wishful thinking. Let me see. Noah's really that stupid to think that, oh my gosh, he's got, he would know the bloodline. Not buying it. And then God destroys everybody on the earth, but I'm going to let Ham's wife in because I'm a trickster. Yeah, that's the ticket. It just doesn't make any sense. It's why, for the life of me, I don't get why people don't understand what's going on. It's the seed war.
Yeah.
And when you couple Daniel chapter 2, verse 43, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. That's future. That book was sealed until the time of the end. Men and women run to and fro over the face of the earth, which is happening now. Knowledge will increase exponentially, happening now. That book is unsealed. Guess what? That ties right into the modern day abduction phenomena. Our film, number 4 in the UFO series, is all on abductions. We sat down with 4 people who were taken. It's the same thing out of Genesis 3:15. Sperm is taken from the men, ovum is taken from the women, hybrids are being born. I mean, this is, and the church won't even look at it for the most part.
Which is so sad because it's really right sad. There. It's right there. So I had a question for you. So Nimrod, on the topic of Nimrod, was he a Nephilim?
Tom Horn wrote about this, and Tom's passing just a little while back, a few months ago, which is very untimely. I'm 73. Tom was 66.
Yeah.
So, it's very sobering when you get, you're just a young whippersnapper, but when you get up around, in your 60s, and me, 73, this year I'll be 74. I mean, I just turned 73. My birthday's in December, so let's not rush things here.
Yeah.
But, my mortality, it's not something I get morbid about.
Yeah.
But, that's why I try to stay fit, watch what I eat. I go running. I go to my home gym, which is a cage. I do 7 upper body exercises that I do at least once a week, sometimes twice or 3 times a week.
As everyone should, honestly. Yeah.
You got to do it. You just got to do it. You got to do it. Because if you don't, your body atrophies and then the bad things start happening. And even that's no guarantee. But I'm very well aware of and just how sobering, getting older is. So, Tom Horn wrote about Nimrod, circling back to the question. And then I also wrote about it in the Cosmic Chess Match. And when we look at the Hebrew texts and we start to extrapolate that, it can mean that Nimrod became a Gibborim through ritualistic sex magic. Where have we heard all that before? So, and that, of course, carries right into modernity with, guys like Aleister Crowley and then some who are performing Babylon working, ritualistic magic. It's all, this is what amazes me. The church is so ignorant. They don't, they won't even look at, they don't even understand. The other side is ramped up, man. The other side is on steroids right now. And the church dithers for the most part, not everybody, but the church dithers. And although lately with the Miami nonsense going on, I've had like a gazillion invites and I'm talking about it. And with now the government coming forward stating that UFOs, UAPs are real. So things are, there's kind of an open door, but for the most part, not really. For the most part, most of the mainline churches won't even touch it. And
So why do you think that is?
Their detriment.
Why do you think the churches won't touch on it?
They're afraid. It's a fear-based deal. They've been to seminary, and so most of them don't know anything about the Nephilim. Most of them have no idea what spiritual warfare. I'm painting with a very broad brush here. Many of them have no idea what putting on the armor of God means. And no idea of our authority as believers in Jesus. And they don't teach that for the most part. So it's this, Barna's written a book. Look, I'm part of the church, okay? But Barna wrote a book, and I just got finished reading it, called Pagan Christianity. And it echoes everything I've been feeling for the last 20, 25 years. But they already have a book. The church, this whole thing that we call church is a construct. It's not not biblical Christianity. It's not the way the church met in the first century. And over the centuries, everything has morphed from Catholicism to the Reformation to what we have now. And so the people sit and watch. That's not the first century model.
Yep.
People sat in a circle and they talked. They integrated. Corinthians talks. One person has a vision, another person has a prophecy. I was in a church. I started it up in Ventura probably 15, 18 years ago, something like that. And it lasted about a good year. And then new people came in with a different vision and we just left. They took it over. And unfortunately, I haven't been back since.
Yeah.
But we started it and we all sat in a circle and we never knew what the Holy Spirit was going to do. Every week was different. There was no set format. Sometimes we wouldn't even begin with worship. Sometimes someone would just go, I had a dream last night, and tell the dream, that's church. Here we are, and we're going into the dream. And somebody else stands up with an interpretation. And somebody else says, this reminds me of something I read in Scripture. And they open up to, it's alive and everybody participates. But now we have, with all due respect to pastors, because a lot of these guys can't even understand, the pressure that they're under.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm just one guy. People can disagree. They can say, well, the church is evolving into this, modern day, blah, 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 blah. Fine. Believe what you want to believe. So the pastors have this building, this mortgage, this payroll, all this stuff, which fine, we're here. Okay. You're not gonna reverse it. It's here. But it's not the way the first century church operated by any means at all.
Yeah.
So the pastors have a board, they've got elders, and some of these guys just look. I just advertised jokingly before Christmas. I said, well, I'm in Southern California. There's about, thousands of churches here. I've never been invited to one church in Southern California. Actually, over a decade ago, one church. Never been invited. I said, I'll come and speak for free.
Yeah.
So one church finally took me up on it. We're speaking there at Claremont. I think next weekend I'll be there.
Yeah.
So it's Friday. This next weekend I'll be yakking away about the whole, UFO, Genesis 3, Genesis 6, the whole 9 yards. So good bully for them. But what about in my own community here in the Santa Monica Mountains, there are, half a dozen churches. And I actually wrote the pastors of both churches recently. I didn't get a reply. Gee, I wonder why.
They're all scared, man.
And I asked them, I said, it wasn't even about UFOs or the Nephilim. I just said, are there any biblical implications to what's going on in the Middle East?
Yeah.
Crickets.
Yep.
Well, that was it. That's all I needed. No response. I get it. Someone like me is viewed as a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And I just can't do it anymore, Mike. I just can't. I just can't sit there for as long as I have, another 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and watch the same mindless format go on week after week after week, where everybody sits and does nothing. So people go, well, the Spirit's here. Well, where's the Spirit? Why is it that only you tell us what's going on? What about the other people in the body of Christ? Don't they get to do something instead of just being spectators? And that's what I take umbrage with. But look, I'm just one guy. God bless the pastors. They're in the trenches doing what they're doing, but it's fear-based. They just want the status quo. They just want everything to go along like this. The problem with that mindset is the UFO phenomenon is now out of the bag. It's over. And unless you address it to your congregation, shame on you. There are some pastors who are doing that. Bully for them. You need to do that. You need to stand up and warn your church that this is the coming great deception, because it will change everything when it happens. It will change everything on this planet.
Yeah. So do you think, on the Nimrod topic, do you think NASA is a continuation of Nimrod's work?
No, I don't. I think NASA, Never a Straight Answer, is a offspring of the German scientists, because Werner von Braun was the head of it.
Yeah.
Nothing you see here. Keep moving.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yep.
No, sorry. Is there an occult element to it? I would say yes. That's conjecture. but that's based on people that I've talked to.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say about it.
So I came across a video a while ago, and you were speaking with one of the shooters of the Kandahar Giant. Could you go into the Kandahar Giant a little bit?
We broke the story. The late Richard Shaw, my ex-business partner, and myself, we broke the story. We had the shooter. We had the second witness. Since then, I've had other people that have come up who were in direct proximity of the event, but came in later, which we didn't interview, which will not come on the record. They have to remain anonymous.
Right.
So what cracks me up is just recently these people talk about the Kandahar Giant. Oh, they know everything. Do they mention L.A. Marzulli or Richard Shaw? Not a peep. We broke the story. We broke the story. And then, to make matters worse, let me just tell you that, welcome to my world. People will take the whole clip from the Kandahar Giant. They'll do an intro and an outro and put their clip on YouTube. And then somebody has to tell me, hey, LA, they stole your film again.
Yeah.
And then it's a copyright strike and we take it down. Meantime, they've had like 300,000 views on it. And they've monetized it and we haven't made a nickel. So welcome to the way everything is, where all you care about is your clickbait.
Yeah.
You don't have any ethics at all. You never tip your hat towards people who, you're standing on their shoulders. I mean, I've already talked about Tom Horn. I've already talked about Dr. I.D.E. Thomas. Gary Stearman was the guy that illuminated Genesis 3:15. I want to go out of my way to give and tip my hat and give people kudos that helped me with my own research. Why, we're people, they're so money hungry, I guess. I don't know. And there was a guy recently, again, no names, but he's on there talking about the Kandahar Giant. Like he knows everything about it. It's like, excuse me, have you ever talked to the shooter? No.
Yeah.
Did you talk to a second witness? No. Do you know what I know? No. You don't, because there's some stuff that we never went public with to protect the people who came forward.
Yeah.
So the Kandahar Giant's real. It's not fantasy. Recently, I interviewed a gentleman on my show whose father and grandmother lived in Kandahar. They lived there, and so his grandmother was a witch. She had a tattoo on her forehead in Arabic, which is part of the whole deal.
Yeah,
and she would tell this man's father, "Don't go near that cave. Don't go near that cave." And she would bring out live animals and tie them to a stake to feed the giant. I have heard this from other witnesses.
Yeah.
So this is as close that we've ever gotten to the family. But there's some other stuff that I can't go public with, but it's
totally
real.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. And the bottom line is, when you look at a map, Afghanistan is here, the Middle East is over here. But if you've got a couple 100 years to walk there, or 100 years or 50 years, it's no problem. So when Joshua and Caleb come into the promised land and the Nephilim tribes are getting their butts kicked, is it possible? Well, we know there was a diaspora of the tribes. We absolutely know that. They migrated, they fled. And this is why that stele from Procopius, I want to thank my good friend Mark Kahn for illuminating that to me. And also one of our archaeologists on our team, Aldo Gonzalez, and I have talked about that stele that Procopius writes about. Procopius is a historian, and that stele said, "We are they who fled from the face of Joshua, the robber, the son of Nun." I'll say it again. We are they who fled from the face of Joshua, the robber, the son of Nun. What's that doing in North Africa, for crying out loud?
Yeah.
Hundreds, thousands of miles away from the Levant. So the idea that the Nephilim, the giants, remember, all the Nephilim tribes are not giants. That's just a genetic characteristic of one tribe. Goliath was certainly from Gath, was certainly a giant, 9, 10, 12 feet, who knows? But he wasn't 6 foot. He wasn't a 6-foot guy.
No.
And this is why our work out in Catalina, where we discovered this picture of a giant skeleton, and there were 6 fingers, and it was 9 feet tall. We had 3 different people, and again, the museum played some fancy footwork and tried to, make it. They don't like this information out, Michael.
Yeah.
It goes against their narrative. Like I just got right before I was on, I was looking at my email. Somebody sent me this a link. In Ecuador, they discovered this ancient city that they didn't believe was there, but it's there. And with
Yeah.
LiDAR, they discovered 6,000 mounds and a whole network of roads. Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, it's like they go, some of these mounds were very large and perhaps used for ceremonial purposes, which is for those of us who travel in this,
Yeah.
that's the great. Well, this giant spearhead was used for ceremonial purposes. This 30-pound axe head was used for ceremonial purposes to show the great status of the chief. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really,
I have
guys? You're
seen
just
I have
making
seen
this
people
up.
talk about that and mention that. I'm
No,
like, that is
no.
not the case at all. I'm sorry.
But that's
Like,
that's what they're taught in school, and that's what they parrot.
yeah.
That's what
Yep.
they parrot.
Yeah. It's crazy. And it's funny because Joshua and Caleb, when they talked about these giants that they had seen, by the way, this is after the flood. So I mean,
After the flood. So what
like,
are they doing there? So you
yeah,
either have
exactly.
Ham's wife is carrying the Nephilim gene,
Yeah.
by golly, by gum, or some of them
Yeah.
somehow hung onto the ark, which is another.
I've heard that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, or the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, which means exactly what it says.
Yeah.
When the sons of God took the wives and went into them, it's a second incursion. And the
Yeah.
same thing's going on now with the modern day abduction phenomena. Women are taken. In our film, which is the fourth film in the series, we have two women. They were taken, they were impregnated. In the third month of their pregnancy, they're re-abducted, and the child is removed from the womb.
Yeah.
I'm not making this stuff up.
Oh,
Michael, it ties into Daniel 2:43. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. I talked about that scripture earlier. This
Yeah.
is where we are. The breeding program is real. And in our sixth film, which we talk about the cattle mutilations, we show the connection between the cattle mutilations and the abduction phenomena. Once again, we broke the story. This is our research. No other that I'm aware of. I could be wrong on this. Nobody else has ever linked the two together. We have. They are creating, Michael, artificial wombs. Human blood and cow blood are interchangeable. You can use cow's blood for a transfusion with a human being. No,
Yeah.
not too many people know about that. People in the medical field do, but the
Yeah.
layperson has no idea. So you've got genetic material taken from the cow. You've got all that blood because the animals completely drained the blood. They are creating artificial wombs.
Yeah.
They take the baby in the third month of pregnancy and they stick it in an artificial womb. Daniel 2:43. And the problem is within the churches, when I say that, people just look at me with the deer in the headlights. It's like, you've got to be kidding, LA.
Yeah.
Why would God allow such a thing? Why does God allow Auschwitz? That's my retort to that. Because we are in a cosmic war, Michael.
Yep.
And until he returns, this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Until he returns, he's got the title deed, but he's got to come back and kick butt. And I can't wait to be with him to see that. And
Amen
how
to
does
that.
he do
Yeah.
that? All he does is stop holding things together.
Mm-hmm.
He is the firstborn of creation, right? Firstborn of creation. For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones, dominions, rulers, or authorities. All things were created by him and for him. And this is the punchline. And he holds all things together. Think about this. He holds all things together. So when he flies down with the armies of heaven on white horses, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, we watch him. We're not lopping off heads like a bunch of, Aragon and lopping heads off the orcs.
Yeah.
I believe when it says in Scripture, out of his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike the nations and rule them with a rod of iron. Out of his mouth, that sharp sword, he stops holding them together. And they just drop on the battlefield and bleed out. And that's why the blood is up to a horse's bridle. That's literal. And it does it because he just goes, I get it. You hate me. You hate the Father. You hate everything about us. And guess what? I made you. I created you. I've given you chance after chance after chance after chance after chance, and you still won't do it. That's okay. It's free will. But
Yeah.
guess what? I'm just not going to hold you together anymore. Whoosh. And their bodies basically collapse. Here's the ticket. And this is how far grace and mercy goes, in my opinion. At the end of 1,000 years, the dragon is let out of the abyss again to deceive the nations. Why? Is it one more chance? Is God saying, I know you hate me. I know. And I know that even if I'm conversing with you right now, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
But, maybe pause and think,
Yeah.
because I'm giving you another chance. And he won't do it. He's so twisted in his own, I don't think even God can untwist him. I mean, I think God can. If the dragon said, untwist me, heal me, but he's never going to do that. If a dragon said, if you heal me, I will serve you, God could do that. But the dragon hates the whole deal and all of his minions with him. I mean, Michael, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I understand it from my little pea brain that I have here, but I don't really understand it. But that's where we are, and I believe.
And we're not made to understand all of it either.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Some things we get after we pass.
Yeah. So going back to the cattle mutilations, is there do you think there's a correlation between the, let's say, blood type of these surrogates? Do you think there's a correlation with that? Could you go into that a little bit?
There might be the idea of anyone with an Rh negative bloodline that is more acceptable to a hybridization. That's conjecture. So that means if you're listening, folks, and you have Rh negative, no, you're not a Nephilim. No, you're not cursed by God. It just means you have a rare blood type, and maybe that is more accessible to them. I don't know. That's conjecture. Here's the deal, Mike. What I've been saying this lately on shows. You can't sit down with a fallen angel and go, I'm here with Beelzebub. And Mr. Beelzebub, can you tell us a little bit about the breeding program, sir? I mean, it's never going to happen. I mean, I'm joking, and I don't want to sit down with Beelzebub.
Yeah.
I want to see Beelzebub.
Yeah.
Lord, I'm just joking here. Maybe I shouldn't joke like that. But, I mean, no one sits down and says anything, which is why, you've got these so-called modern-day prophets running around, and they're wrong most of the time. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and they never say, oops, I blew it again.
Yeah.
People go, well, the modern day, I get it, but the Bible tells me exactly what's going to happen. I don't need a modern day prophet to know about Psalm 83, Isaiah 17, the destruction of Damascus, the Ezekiel 38 war. I don't need anybody to tell me. All I need to do is go there and read about it and go, are we looking right now with what's going on in the Middle East? Are we looking at Psalm 83? Are we looking at, I think it's Jeremiah 42 or 44, when they go in and they destroy that little town in western Iran, the Bashar reactor, of course. I think it's going to be a preemptive hit. We're now looking at the possibility of World War III, the destruction of Damascus, that's Isaiah 17, the coalition of nations which surround Israel, Ezekiel 38. Are we seeing that? Well, you look at it, you tell me. Turkey and Iran, even though they're Shia and Sunni, respectively. So, Iran is Shia, Turkey is Sunni. They hate each other. They've hated each other for 1,300 years. But the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And the enemy for both of them is Israel. So we know from Scripture that Iran and Turkey create a coalition with Russia, who's always lurking in the distance. It's like right there. Are we looking at Ezekiel 38? I can't say that we are, but I'm looking. I'm watching and I'm waiting. So I'm just looking. I'm looking at what's going on. And if we are looking at Ezekiel 38, then we're going up soon. That's all I can tell you, in my opinion.
Have you ever heard of Lieutenant Colonel, I think it's Greg Renrich? Have you heard of him?
I thought you were going to say Philip Corso. No, I have not.
So he's somebody that, so it was really hard to try to find his name across the internet. But supposedly he was a sniper in the military, and he was handpicked for a security team for a deep underground military base. And I found him on a podcast. It was super hard to find anything on him, which, makes sense. They're trying to snuff out anybody that knows anything about this topic. But so in his work in this deep underground military base, he had said that he had worked right alongside these he says 15-foot tall giants, and he had said that these giants had specifically told him, like, we are fallen angels, and they're supposedly working alongside these sign tests. And I don't remember exactly what they were trying to do, but he had like described them as very tall, very huge, caused, essentially caused the hair on the back of his neck to stand up.
Sure.
But part of his initiation into this security detail was he had to sign a waiver stating that essentially he could not speak the name of Jesus Christ under, in the presence, like, underground, just because it made these giants like cringe in fear and like in pain. But yeah, it's a really, really crazy, like far out, pretty crazy story.
I've heard versions of this from other people, versions of it.
Yeah.
So when you keep hearing it over and over and over again, there's certainly credibility there, even though it's not out of the bag yet.
Yeah.
We have made a pact with them probably back when Eisenhower went to Holloman Air Force Base and one-to-one communication. And so Eisenhower gave them access to the population. They gave us the craft to back engineer to fly around or whatever. And the problem is, when you look at Congress, when Mace is talking to Representative Mace, Nancy Mace, is talking to Grush, David Grush, and she goes, well, who can I go to? Who are the contractors, the subcommittees, whatever? They can't get to first base, Michael. They can't.
Yeah.
This is why, in my opinion, we have no country anymore, because even our representatives can't figure out who's running the show.
Yeah.
What's really going on? You got a whistleblower like David Grush. Did you have any bodies from these crash retrievals? Yes, we had biologics. Nancy Mace, were the biologics human or non-human? And Grush looks right up at her and goes, non-human biologics. My phone doesn't ring for the most part. I get a few emails. That is startling information.
Yeah.
Startling information. That changes everything. But see, the church is so asleep that it thinks that these things are irrelevant. What they don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not.
They're so relevant to, especially what's, with what's been going on and how fast all of this stuff has been ramping up, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So what would you say are some Nephilim traits?
6 fingers, red hair, double rows of teeth, extraordinarily strong. Because remember, they're hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
They've got fallen angel DNA. So Goliath is a Nephilim, and the only way you can kill it is to cut its head off.
Yeah,
that's it. It's the only way you can kill it is decapitate it. Copper bullets aren't going to work. But that's
yeah.
So you got to decapitate them.
Yeah. So I was listening to an episode on the Confessionals with Tony Merkel. And there was an account of this gentleman who, he was a child when it happened, but I guess his father, and I think either his father's like friend or his brother, they had actually shot down a Bigfoot, and he was a kid when this happened, and they ended up like cutting him open and like doing like an autopsy on this Bigfoot, and they found double rows of teeth and like a second set of lungs and like I think a second heart. I can't remember completely, but and that kind of made me go, oh my gosh, like double rows of teeth. Like could they be part of this hybridization, this Nephilim project per se?
You know who Scott Carpenter was? Have you heard of his name?
I've heard his name a few times. Yeah.
He was a stellar Bigfoot researcher. He was taken out several months ago. Massive brain hemorrhage. I won't go into what I think happened, but that's speculation on my part. I have spoken to David Paulides about it, though.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah.
But Scott had unbelievable film, which we showed on our show. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where this entity is in a bubble like this, and inside that bubble is an entity crouched down, elongated skull, and it's a Bigfoot. So they have the ability to pop in, pop out. These are, in my opinion, part of the modern day Nephilim.
Yeah.
And the Bible says that the beasts of the earth are let loose. As the late Russ Dizdar used to say, these are not hamsters and giraffes.
Yeah.
So what are they? What are the beasts of the earth? What are we looking at? Since Gimli Patterson decades ago, 50 years ago, right? Since Gimli Patterson shot that footage, and I actually have shown this on my YouTube channel, the Gimli Patterson frame by frame by frame, all digitized.
Yeah.
And these people go, oh, it's a hoax. That's been proven a million times, blah, 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 blah. Let me get this straight. The Bigfoot in the film has breasts. So
Yeah.
are you trying to tell me in the mid 60s or whenever this happened, early 60s, that some guy had a female gorilla suit that he was wearing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you get the way the arms hang and the stride, and they never redacted it. But since then, this elusive Bigfoot thing, it's just blown up like crazy. The sightings are through the roof. Is it possible? And I mean, this is people go, oh, LA's really lost it now. He's trying to say that Bigfoot is the therion. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
In our Bibles, it says the beasts of the earth. Well, if the Bigfoot aren't the beasts of the earth, then you show me what are.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me lions and hippopotami start running around killing people? Well, that would work in Africa. What would work in the United States? I don't know.
Yeah.
Bears? Well, we're all armed to the teeth here. So that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at? We're looking at a semi-interdimensional entity, Bigfoot, that can pop in and out. They can bilocate. They can be here 1 second and then disappear and appear over here. So it's like this. It's like, you're looking at the Bigfoot here, bam, he's gone.
Yeah.
And you're looking around, all of a sudden he's over here. Oh my gosh, how did that work? They can't bilocate. They can't.
Kind of like what people are saying happened in Miami.
There's three possibilities in Miami, and I talked about this ever since it happened. One, it's exactly what we were told. A bunch of hoodlums are lighting off firecrackers in a mall.
Yeah.
Which, sounds like if you're 100 feet away and you don't know, it sounds like, oh my gosh, we're being attacked by a group of terrorists. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Everyone flees. Okay. That makes sense on some level. So that's what I lean towards, because I don't have all the information.
Right.
Two, that these were not aliens, first of all, that they were fallen angels that were appearing in the mall, which makes me wonder why, who summoned them, how did they open up, was there a gateway, is the mall on a gateway that we don't know about, that the builders don't know about, that Native Americans do? That's a possibility. The third one is all these so-called eyewitnesses. Oh, I was here with my brother and my sister and my nephew. Well, bring them in. Why don't you just sit down with all four of them in front of the camera and each one tell their story? Now, all of a sudden, I'm going to have a tendency to believe it. Because if you have four witnesses telling me the same thing, that's, first of all, it's biblical, two or three more witnesses, and you can tell by their body language. They can be having slightly different opinions of what they're seeing. But you get on and you tell me that this is what we saw, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. Anybody can say anything on the internet. So are you just there for clickbait? I don't know. I don't disparage the gentleman who does this, but I don't know him from Adam, and there's no way to vet his story. I mean, I could be telling you right now, Michael, you're not going to believe this, but there was a mile-wide UFO craft right above our house. Actually there was. In 2018, the day of the fire, there's a picture. Okay, I wish I could share it with you, but there's a picture. So you're looking at the entire mountains, and up here in the left-hand corner is a disc, and it's got windows. I mean, it's plain as day.
Yeah.
It's right over our house, the day of the fire, 2018. And then I had a neighbor, which has to remain anonymous, so everything's burnt. 2,000 homes are burnt. The canyons are blackened. It's a disaster. He tells me he's out with his girlfriend, and she doesn't believe in UFOs. And he goes, oh, yeah? Well, what about this? And as he says that, right, this huge, huge craft comes over like this, silently, and floats down the canyon to the ocean. And then when it gets to the end, it just kind of fades like this behind the mountain and disappears. Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, this is my neighborhood.
Yeah.
No pictures. And but out here in the ocean, I'm looking at the ocean right now. There's one of the deepest channels on the planet. There's a hot spot right out there. And right out there, when I go down my canyon, I see Catalina Island. Catalina Island is where we saw, and I got the picture of a 9-foot skeleton of a giant. So it's a hotbed.
Yeah.
My wife and I have seen craft. She saw him. I was driving, but we both saw something together. It was like right over Pacific Coast Highway. This years ago, and that's where the saying came: "Rebuke first, ask questions later."
Yeah.
Don't be mesmerized by what you see.
Yeah. And that's smart. That's really good. Have you heard of the giant skeletons that they found in the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
Could
There's
you
also
go in a little bit into that?
again, it's all second. I mean, this is what drives me nuts. It's all
Yeah.
secondhand information. Anybody can write anything. I mean, there was a story that we were trying to track down a while back. A very colorful writer who was captured by I think it was called 3 Years with the Apache or something like that.
Yeah.
And he told us that he came upon this ancient city, and then the chief, told him that, there was this ancient race of white men who were giants and they built this, and the Great Spirit came and took them away and all this other stuff, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
We've tried to locate the city. I've actually talked to it's not Apache, it's Comanche. I've talked to an elder, but they don't tell white people anything, and I understand why. And I have to remind them that my family came over in 1898. We had nothing to do with anything that happened here. Okay, we were discriminated against in the same way you were. And so the Comanche, they may know where this hidden city is, or it may all just be made up. So the point I'm trying to make is when you go to the Newark Earthworks and you go to Machu Picchu, when you go to Sacsayhuaman or Teotihuacan or the Octagon Mount or the thousands of standing stones in Karnak, France, or Gilgar Raphaim, or Menga, Spain, or the cairns and standing stones in Ireland and all over the Americas and blah blah blah. I can go on. That's real.
Yeah.
That's real. But that's a managed agenda because they're trying to tell us, like modern day archaeologists, the Hopewell created all these. Well, who are the Hopewell? Well, we really don't know what they called themselves. But Hopewell was a farmer and he found the artifacts. So we're just calling them the Hopewell people. Well, the Hopewell people just vanished from Earth. And we hear the same thing at all the sites I've ever been to. These people built these incredible structures and then just assimilated into the indigenous population due to climate change. Oh,
Yeah.
really? So when I go down to South America, I'm hearing exactly the same line.
Yeah.
All these people assimilated in the indigenous population due to climate change. But the indigenous people have no oral tradition of this strange group of people that immigrated into their tribe. Hey, let us in because we're starving because of climate change. Nothing. It's not there. So I have a whole other theory, and I won't bore you with the details. It'll make every archaeologist jump up and scream and call me every name in the book. But it's based on the supernatural worldview. It's based on the precedent we have in the guidebook of a supernatural, i.e. the Bible. And it's based on archaeological finds that are here. Michael, something is going on. Something is going on.
I agree.
And I can't get into it, but it's a mind-boggling thing. And I've already talked about it to our team, and that's the premise of one of our films, which we're hopefully in May we'll go and we'll film there, because this stuff is it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's so much has happened. I mean, in just the past, really like the past 60 years, that it's like 60 to 70 years that's happened. That's just, something's going on, and it's getting, I feel like it's getting worse, and it's
ramping up.
It's ramping up. Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And it's so funny. It's so funny to see, our own government trying to snuff it out and trying to like push it under. And it's just popping up here and there, here, like all over the place. There's no, just stating, like back in the you know, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, anybody that said, you know, the UFOs, you know, oh, UFOs are a thing.
You're a nutcase.
Yeah, they're a nutcase. They're crazy. And that now, like nowadays, they're laughing, saying, "Hey, I was right." You know, it's going on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something's happening. Something's ramping up. I think it's very spiritual. You know what's going on.
I agree.
I'm a Christian, and just in the past 8 or 9 years, I had a bunch of spiritual warfare happening to me growing up. And it kind of segued when I worked at a Bible camp, and some stuff happened to me. Like, you know, I was all alone, like, you know, things happened, and I was like, okay, you know, this is real. This is legit. And it kind of segued. Yeah. It segued me into this asking questions, you know, what are, you know, asking the church questions, what's going on here. And most of the time, all the questions I would ask, like my, you know, youth group leaders or even like some pastors that I had conversations with, they couldn't answer the question. They couldn't. And it was really hard, because I'm like, okay, well, where else do I turn? You know, the Bible, it's all there, you know,
it's all there.
It is. It really is.
Everything we've been discussing is all biblically based. Everything.
Yes,
from
absolutely.
the Nephilim to UFOs to giants to fallen angels. It's all right there. Genesis 3:15 is the gateway to the entire biblical narrative. If we don't come to grips with Genesis 3:15, your seed will be at enmity, at war with the seed of the woman. He, the proto-evangelium, Jesus, the Messiah, will crush your head, you'll bruise his heel. If we don't come to grips with that, might as well just don't even read the Bible. You'll never understand it. You'll never understand what's going on.
Yeah, and it makes me sad that some Christians that I've talked to, I mean, family members even that I've talked with, they look at the Bible as more theoretical and like, oh, well, you know, it's just like it's poetry, or it's just,
it's a nice story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sad, because I'm like, that is our framework as a Christian right there, is the Bible. That is, it's all there. It's not theoretical,
it's all there.
You know?
Yeah, it's not. It's how to live. It's what to do.
It really is.
But you know, the gateway is Genesis 3:15, but our instructor is the Spirit of a living God. Yep. If we allow him, if we allow the Holy Spirit, who will teach us in all things, that's the promise. If we allow him to teach us, he will teach us. Yeah, he will lead us. Look, if you had told me, how old are you, Michael?
I am 23 years old.
Okay, so I'm old enough to be your grandfather. So 43 years ago, when I came across the line, 43 years ago, I was a professional musician. You know, all I was trying to do was make it in the music industry. And my Lord, we would come right up to the door, and then the door would close. Yeah. Weird things would happen.
Yeah.
And then I became a worship leader. All I wanted to do was become a Christian recording artist. Same thing. Yeah. Same thing. No matter what we did, no matter what I did. And 34 years ago is when he began to move me into what I'm doing now, very slowly. My roots are in the New Age. So he started to go, remember all that stuff you got into? And
yeah.
And then Dr. I.D.E. Thomas's book, which changed my life. And then we were signed by Zondervan. I was signed by Zondervan to write Nephilim, The Truth Is Here. That was the first of a 3-part fiction. We were all novels. But then from there, that's when he turned the juice up. And that's 18 years ago. When he really turned the juice up. And here we are. So
yeah. All right. Well, we're coming up right up on an hour. Yeah, I guess, honestly, like, thank you so much for reaching out. And, I was actually really surprised when, you know, you got back to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm a huge fan of your work.
Thank you.
You know, I think you're very, very, very knowledgeable. And I honestly, like, I couldn't be more grateful that you came on to have this discussion with me. And, you know, hopefully, you know, somewhere down the future, like, you know, I can.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's set a date for a couple of months. You know, we just came out with the 2 Roswell films. Yeah. Streaming.lamarzulli.net or lamarzulli.net if you want to buy the DVDs. Yeah. We have two more films in that series. What is the Truth? There'll be 10 films in the UFO series. 10 films.
10 films.
You know, we don't have time to get into half of what we talked about. But I just want to tell you that, you seem to be very astute. You got your head on your shoulders. You asked some great questions. You've done your homework.
Yeah.
And I'd love to come back on. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you so much. So what are some places that we can get your information on and kind of support your work?
Thank you. lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. The streaming, there are 30 films there in the streaming, roughly 30. And that's streaming.lamarzulli.net. Streaming. So you can binge watch them right now. You don't have to worry for, and stuff to come in by the post office and all this stuff. You can just go right to our streaming site and stream them. So there you have it.
And then you're on Instagram, TikTok.
All social media.
Awesome.
But we just started that. We
Yeah.
have, Rachel Tolson, who handles all of our social media, doing a fantastic job. So hats off,
awesome.
Rachel, if you hear this.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, if you've had an unexplained or paranormal experience, please shoot me an email at the MBFP podcast at proton.me. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you next time around.
Thank you, Michael. Take care.